everybody, and welcome to the LGBTQIA podcast with Paige. I'm your LGBTQ officer for the Student Union, and I use she, her pronouns. And today we're here with Nora.
Hi everyone, I'm Nora. My pronouns are she and they, and I identify as asexual and aromantic.
And just so you know, Nora is using a pseudonym today, but we're so grateful to have you here. So thank you so much, Nora. And as you've said, thank you. As you said, this is the A is for Asexual podcast, but we're also going to talk a little bit about being aromantic as well. And I've just explained to Nora that I'm a little bit fuzzy-headed today, so if I seem off the rails, just ignore me. It's a Friday, I'm just I'm just hanging out. So
I think that can be forgiven on a Friday.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll start out with something just like nice and simple. Would you just like to name something that made you happy today?
Yeah, I actually had a bit of a weird experience this morning. I got a mystery package in the post, and it was a box that said fragile on it. I didn't recognise the handwriting or anything. There was no indication of who it was from. And even when I opened it up, there was no note to say who it was from, and it was just a mug with a packet of hot chocolate inside. And, I just had no clue who would have sent that to me. And I asked a couple of friends who also had no idea. And then I looked on the bottom of the box and it said, "Do not open until this date at the end of February." And I just have no clue what happens on that date. So I guess I'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, mystery.
So you still don't know who it's from?
No idea.
That's so bizarre.
Yeah, I'm quite excited to find out, but I guess I'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and that date doesn't mean anything to you, and
no, and I've googled it. It doesn't seem to be like a holiday or anything. I can't think of anyone's birthday who's on that day. Just have no idea.
I almost feel like we should do a catch-up podcast in March so I can find out what happened.
Yeah, I'll let you know what it was.
You'll have to, and I'll have to. If anyone asks me, I'll have to let them know on the slide because I'm so curious.
Yeah, I'll put it in the comments of the video or something.
Yes, great. For anyone who's watching this after February the 28th, I think you said, look in the comments and maybe we'll know what Nora got in the post. Maybe we won't. I don't know. Oh, so fascinating. Right, so I guess we'll jump straight in, shall we? What does being asexual mean to you?
So being asexual means someone who feels little to no sexual attraction to any gender. And because I'm also aromantic, that means the same thing but for romantic attraction. So someone who doesn't experience any romantic attraction to any gender. But for me, I'm technically on the aromantic spectrum. They're both their own wide spectrums with lots of grey areas in the middle. And I would probably say I'm demi-romantic, which means that I don't feel any romantic attraction unless I form a very close emotional bond with someone. It's just not possible until I've formed that bond with someone. I have a partner right now, actually, but I didn't feel any attraction to him at all until we were best friends and spent most of our time together. And then suddenly I was like, actually, maybe I do like you.
Oh,
it's very odd.
It's I mean, if you want to describe it as odd, that's entirely your call. But I also don't think it's that odd because if you look at people who don't define themselves as asexual or aromantic, a lot of people or demi-romantic, they definitely experience a similar thing. At least I know people who have been like, well, I don't know until I kind of get to know a person better. I know it's not quite the same, but what I'm trying to say is I don't think it's odd.
Yeah, what I meant was it felt odd to me because that hadn't really happened to me before. It was the first time I'd really experienced that. So
Understood.
Yeah, but I do think there are probably a lot of people out there who are demisexual or demi-romantic or something, or somewhere on the asexual or aromantic spectrum, and they just don't realise it because they don't know what it is. So I do think there are probably a lot of people out there who have similar experiences.
I just didn't want you coming on this podcast and calling yourself odd. I was like, I can't stand for that. No, No, I'm sorry. I'm glad we
Yeah,
got that cleared up. And I'm
yeah,
really glad we've brought in some new language within this podcast, because I think something like demi-romantic or demisexual is a word that a lot of people probably won't have heard of before, and they'll be thinking, "Oh, this
yeah,
has just blown my world right open because I didn't even know that was a thing." So,
yeah, exactly. And
yeah,
I also identify as bi, because like on the rare occasion I have felt attraction, it's just to any gender. It doesn't really seem to matter to me. Like it doesn't. I seem to experience attraction to men and women like equally frequently, if that makes any sense.
yeah, yeah. So that's the best
Yeah,
fit for what you feel, what's right for you.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I don't
that's
really have much data to go on.
well, I suppose you don't have to base it off of data. You just base it off of what
Yeah,
fits best for you, I
yeah, just
guess.
what feels
There is
right.
this, yeah, it is what feels right, and I think I know we've had conversations about that within the Aston LGBT community, and I've had conversations with people
Mhm.
who are just like, I don't know if this word is right for me, and I think the thing I always say is just like, it's what feels. Just what feels right. It doesn't have to, you don't have to fit like a Wikipedia definition of what it means to be aromantic. It's just what it means to yourself. So,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's
yeah.
exactly why I use arrow ace as an umbrella term still. Like I identify as like completely asexual, but not completely aromantic, but I still use it as kind of a catch-all term because it's quite a lot to just explain to someone when you first like meet them or come out to them or something. So it's just kind of easier to say that.
Yeah, that's worth noting actually, that it is a lot. And so every time you meet a person, to have to be like, well, I'm arrow ace, but also like sometimes I feel this way, and then when I do feel this way, I identify as bi, but that's the whole thing is me, but please don't be confused. And I think, yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. It doesn't, it's just it's a term to put someone in the right direction, and then if they want to get into the nuance of it with you and you're feeling happy to do so, that's fine. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
So what is bless you, what is an experience you've had as, should we just say, do you want to say like arrow ace, like what is an experience you've had as an arrow ace
Yeah.
person that you wish more people knew about?
Um, Well, every time I've like come out to someone as arrow ace, or nearly every time, I've kind of had to explain what it means. And on top of how like scary it can be to come out to people, it's also a little bit draining to do that sometimes. I'm sure lots of people in the community can relate to that, like having to explain their identity to people. So I kind of wish more people knew the definitions of them. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with not knowing what it means, especially as it's not really a very well known identity in the first place. But it just can be that little bit more draining sometimes to explain it to people. So I kind of wish that there was more awareness around it.
Yeah, I have to agree. And obviously, I'm not speaking from the perspective of an arrow ace person, but as somebody who's an advocate for the community, you
Mm.
don't see as many conversations being had about being asexual or being aromantic. It's not something that a straight person is likely to fall across or stumble across. Does that make sense? You'd have to go digging, and I
Yeah.
think that's unfortunate that the same representation has not been given to people who identify as arrow and ace as there has been maybe for people who identify as a lesbian or
Yeah.
any other part of the community. I think you just got to raise those voices up a little bit more. They need just a little bit more of a nudge, into the so people like so you said, so
Yeah.
you're not having to explain yourself every time someone asks you, or you want to explain to somebody, your identity.
Mhm.
It shouldn't be that hard work.
Yeah. Yeah, because like most of the time I don't mind explaining it to people, but sometimes like when I have the option to come out to someone, I just think, oh, I'm a bit tired right now. I don't really want to go into all of that. I don't really want to spend my energy on this right now, and then I just keep putting it off. So like even if I know that someone would be accepting, I kind of just keep putting it off for a little while longer.
I think that what you just said there, that like you guess a person might be accepting, but you keep putting it off. I think that's a feeling
Yeah,
a lot of people within the community will resonate with.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is tiring. It is just, oh gosh, I have to do this again. I don't want to do it again. I'm tired.
Yeah.
I respect that. I really, yeah. I feel like a lot of people will listen and be like, yeah, I feel you. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So,
Just one more
oh
thing
yeah,
I
sorry, keep going. Yeah,
that
absolutely.
oh no worries. Just there's another thing I kind of wish that people knew about. I've met quite a few people who don't realise that you can be aromantic but not asexual, or vice versa. So, like one of my friends didn't realise that until I mentioned it to them, and a little while later they told me that they were aromantic, but they hadn't known that was even possible before because they weren't asexual, and they were like, "Thank you for actually bringing this up because I don't think I would have found out otherwise." So that was really like heartwarming, but kind of heartbreaking at the same time. I was kind of sad for them that they hadn't known that before. So yeah, I think there would be a lot of people who would discover something about themselves if they knew that.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think the bravery it took you to come onto this podcast today and explain how you feel and your story might
Mhm.
trigger that for another person who's listening. They might be like, I didn't even know that was an option. I think that's what like happens,
Yeah,
isn't it? You go, oh, there's a
yeah, I
word
hope
for
so.
that. Like, I didn't know.
Yeah, because that was exactly my reaction when I found out about it as well. I was like, I didn't even know this was a thing, but it
Yeah.
perfectly fits me.
Well, I hope that there's somebody out there who benefits from this conversation in that sense, because it's true. If you're
Yeah,
not given the tools to be able to do something or convey how you feel, how are you meant to do it? You know what I mean?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're only gonna learn by talking about it. So here we are. So before I rudely interrupted you, I was gonna say, have you ever been to Pride?
Yes, I have been a couple of times. I went to Birmingham Pride first, actually, with some friends from Aston, and then a little bit later went to London Pride. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I wore a huge aromantic flag as a cape the whole day, and even though I didn't see anyone else with an aromantic flag, I did see plenty of asexual ones, which was nice. And a couple
Yeah.
of people also came up to me to ask me what it was, and we had a nice chat about it. So I was like really happy to kind of spread that information to other people. It was really nice. Yeah.
That's so lovely. I think I've actually the two prides I've been to have also been London and Birmingham, so jinx.
Hmm. Yeah.
But I love how that's the environment, isn't it? It's like, okay, there's something I don't recognize, but if this person's wanting to talk to me, I really want to learn, and I just want to, encompass you within this like community that we have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I really hope in the future we'll see more of that and see more of the lesser known flags and like identities at Pride as well. Because I didn't see very many of them. I think it would be nice. It would just be a really nice way to raise some more awareness about them, I think.
I have to agree. I feel as if almost in terms of like how they go in the acronym, the letters at the beginning, although have by no means the perfect life, have also got a lot more acknowledgement and representation over the past few years. Whereas our like TQIA at the end, I feel like I feel like we just need to
Yeah.
just lift them up a little bit, just be like, we're here too,
Yeah.
um yeah, I have to
Yeah.
agree. It'd be nice to see more of that at Pride events and spaces that
Mhm.
are designed specifically for LGBTQIA plus people to be. So,
Yeah.
if you, and it can't be COVID, if you could change anything in the world right now, what would it be?
This is a tough question. I think someone else has said this before, but I would want to. I think the obvious choice for me would be like eradicating all hatred from the world. I know everyone says that, but I just think that would make the world a much nicer place for everyone to live in. But if I couldn't say that, I would probably go with like decommissioning all nuclear weapons or something along those lines.
Oh, okay, okay. So, first of all, removing hate from the world, lovely one. Obviously, can't fault that. But we've not had decommissioning nuclear weapons yet. That's new. That's a new
Yeah,
one.
I
I
kind
was
of feel like
joking. Oh, carry on. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I kind of feel like that would follow on from eradicating hatred from the world anyway. So if I could do that first one, the second one would just kind of follow afterwards.
Absolutely. They're hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was having a laugh with the guys I did the bisexual podcast with, because like the answers for this question have been so fantastic and so brilliant, but also like the manifesto for a party. Like if you put them together, it would be a manifesto.
Yeah.
I might write them down actually all at the end and be like, right, well, that's it. This is what we're running under. So no, that's a good answer. What is, and now I don't know any stereotypes, so this will be a learning thing for me. What is the biggest stereotype of being an ace arrow person that you live up to?
I think probably not understanding flirting from other people. So one stereotype, it's quite a big stereotype about arrow and ace people actually, that they're just oblivious to people flirting with them. And I just completely live up to it. Like I went on 2 dates with the person who's now my partner without even realizing that they were dates. Like I thought we were going out as friends. Because neither of us like specifically used the word date, so I just assumed we were getting coffee as friends or going to a restaurant as friends or something. Because I do that with most of my friends anyway, so I can't tell the difference. I always wish people would just say like what they want outright, because I just have no clue otherwise.
I mean, and whilst I think that is both endearing and wonderful and just incredibly wholesome, you make a really valid point about people just being explicitly clear about what they expect from a circumstance,
Yeah,
even if you're not like somebody who's like asexual, aromantic, and isn't necessarily in touch with understanding flirting. Like it benefits everybody if someone's just really explicitly like, I want to go
yeah,
on a date with you. This is a romantic
mm,
context. Is that, how do you feel about that? And then the other person could be like, well, I feel
yeah,
fantastic, or no, thank you very much, or whatever. But that's I suppose
yeah. I feel
logic
like
would
people have.
suggest. Oh, sorry, carry on.
Mm. Well, I was just gonna say, I know it's a really scary thing sometimes to say outright just what you want.
Mm.
But I do think it would benefit everyone. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, I suppose it is scary, but if it became common practice, it would make it not scary because it would be the done thing.
Mm, yes,
There we go.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
something to take away. I love that. I actually think the stereotype question is probably my favorite one, because every answer I've just found like relatively wholesome, because they just are, they're just
Yeah,
funny and just like, yeah, that's
yeah.
very, very wholesome. What is for you the best part? And I suppose we could answer this in two parts if you like, about being
Mm.
aromantic and about being asexual.
Um, I think I actually have the same answer for both, which would
Okay.
be the community. I think I would have had a much harder time, like realizing that I was Aroace, and b like coming to terms with it, if I hadn't made friends online with other people who were Arrow and Ace. And they made it a lot easier for me because then I had someone to talk to about my experiences. And I also just followed a lot of people on social media who I related to, and just seeing them talk about their experiences and making like supportive and validating posts. Even that was just really helpful because I didn't know anyone else in real life who was Arrow or Ace, so I didn't have like friends in real life who I could ask about it. Um, but yeah, I think that's one thing about Aston, which I really like as well, going to the LGBT society and meeting other people who I can relate to.
Yeah, I love that. I love that there's, and we've had a similar answer for some of the other podcasts, is that like whatever part of the acronym you fall under, whether it be one or several identities, there's a community out there for you who's like just
Mhm.
willing to take you in with open arms, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and especially as it's not a very, well, a lot of LGBT terms aren't very well known among the general population, so you don't really find out about them from anywhere else. You kind of have to meet other people who like resonate with them before you can understand what they mean and understand if they will fit you or not.
Yeah, that's poignant actually, isn't it? It's not like you kind of wake up one day and you go, well, I suppose this one fits me. It is very much, you have to immerse yourself and understand, right? Well, this is the lived experience of a person who identifies this way. Is that partially how I feel? Do I resonate with that?
Mm.
Is that for me?
Yeah, and people experience these things in so many different ways that even if you like meet one asexual person, you don't relate to them, you might meet another person who experiences it a bit differently, and you might relate a lot more to that person. So I think it's good to kind of have learn about a variety of different experiences in that respect.
And not just you as a person who's asexual and aromantic, but people outside of that identity should take the time to learn about what it means to be asaro, because you
Mm.
have to, in order to be respectful, you have to have a level of understanding of other people, I believe. And so
Yeah,
it's everyone's job to learn a bit more and to listen to other people's experiences and just sit and just listen, I guess.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you made a really interesting point about well, not, I suppose not really interesting, but like about it being on a spectrum. And I think that's the same for everybody,
Mhm.
isn't it? I think that's something to take away from this podcast, is that every person who identifies within some way within the community is on a spectrum of identity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And there's so many different experiences. You can't just take one person's experience of being like asexual or aromantic or bisexual or whatever and apply that to everyone under that label.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I suppose, I mean, you've touched on this a little bit already, but what is your favourite thing about being part of the LGBTQ plus community at Aston?
Yeah, that would. Yeah, it's a very similar point, really. Make just meeting people who understand, I suppose, and it's nice to feel like really safe and comfortable with a group of friends for once, and to be able to relate to them on that level. It makes it feel a lot more like tangible as well because we all have like one place to meet together, and without that, it's a lot harder to meet other LGBT people, um, and and talk about like your experiences with them. And you just like when I was in sixth form, I maybe knew one or two LGBT people, but I found it a lot harder to kind of figure out my own identity just because I didn't have other people to talk to about it. So even though I really appreciated all of my straight friends who like made an effort to understand, it's still nice to have other LGBT friends who you can relate to.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to, isn't it? It's just having that kind of safe space that you can explore who you are, whilst other people who understand it can be around and support you.
Yeah,
And yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, that's it's a lovely, lovely community.
Yeah,
I've enjoyed my 4 years of being part of it. To be honest, I'll be sad to go.
yeah, so am I.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I do think the
Um,
Aston LGBT society is really supportive, and everyone there seems like a really close knit group of friends. It's just really nice. It's a really nice environment to
yeah,
be in.
absolutely, and close knit, but not in the sense that like if you came up and said hello, we wouldn't be like Mean Girls, like.
No, not at all.
Like, oh, we wear pink on Wednesdays or whatever it is. Sorry, I butchered that quote, but um, yeah. So, I
Yeah.
mean, on the off chance that there's somebody who is considering going to Aston and they've absolutely just stumbled across this, they've just let it be known that the community here is just really, genuinely, really friendly. I just think they're lovely people.
Yeah, I
It-
agree. And like when I
yeah.
first joined in first year as well, I was really pleasantly surprised that everyone kind of came to introduce themselves to me and tried to like involve me in conversations and everything. So that was really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wholesome. So, is there just anything else really that you feel like you would like the people to know, or just something you want to say about being asexual, aromantic, about just your
Oh,
day?
goodness, no. Um, I don't know. I've just kind of emphasise again, really, that people experience it very, very differently, and that um, and they can be used as umbrella terms for a wide spectrum of experiences as well. So if you think you might relate to asexuality or aromanticism, I would kind of encourage you to look into it, because there are so many identities under those umbrellas that you might relate to, or that you might just find interesting to look into.
Yeah, that's a nice takeaway. And even if you, like we've said, even if you don't necessarily feel like that is something that you personally relate to, it would still benefit you to just investigate further into them umbrella identities, because it doesn't hurt anybody to have more knowledge about these things, does it? So
No, exactly. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's it from me. If you have nothing else you would like to add.
Just that this has been really fun, so thank you for having me.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Genuinely, thank you. I think it's because we talked about this. The latter end of the acronym doesn't quite have the same voice. I don't feel, from what I've seen, and so I'm very, very lucky to have you be brave enough to come and talk about this today, because it must have taken a lot. I can't begin to imagine how nerve-wracking that was. So just thank you so much. It was
Oh,
really, really brave, and I'm sure a lot of people will feel the same way. So thank you so much for sharing.
yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, I've really
Thank
enjoyed coming to talk about it.
Oh, I'm so glad. All right, then. I'm going to stop the recording, so I'll wave my goodbye now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.